Well, welcome back to another episode of the Always About People show. I'm your host, Chris Allen, and I'm just really glad that you're joining us for this episode. I think it might change the way that you learn. It might change the way that you look back on the previous year. As I've reflected really on 2022 and a lot of what's happened here at Always About People and within my own personal life, I like to take an opportunity at the end of the year to just look back, to take a few moments to look back through a journal that I keep at all of the thoughts along the way, the things that I've learned, the books that I've read, and just take an opportunity to look back in order to lock in what I've learned. And so today's episode, well, it's called Looking Back to Lock in Learning. Looking Back to Lock in Learning. And so I just thought I'd take a few moments to share with you some of the practical ways that I look back, but also some of the questions that I ask myself. And hopefully, as a result, you'll have the opportunity, even after watching this show, to do this for yourself. This isn't so much informational as much as it's maybe a guide for you to work through the process yourself. So whether you're watching this live, and you might have questions along the way, or you're watching this as a recording, I just want to say thank you for joining us. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for being here consistently with us. And I just want to remind you, ask questions, type in comments. I promise you we'll get back to you. So again, thanks for being here. Let's take a few moments to look back. So I've taken some notes and some thoughts down on really looking back at how I process the year. And really just a few thoughts. So how can I do this? What can I do? Well, the first place I would start is grab a journal, grab a piece of paper. I think what I would add to that is feel free to express your creativity in this process. I know some people who like lined journals, some people who like plain paper journals with no lines, some people who love markers, pens, special pens, favorite highlighters, doesn't matter. Maybe you're a smelly marker type of person. Use nice paper. Feel free to draw pictures to lock in learning. You don't have to just write notes. Again, feel the freedom to do this. I would say also pull out books that you've read, maybe some things that you've clipped, notes that you've taken online. If you use an online sort of a note-taking location, pull those notes up, but then a few specifics about your time. You may want to be in a position where you can look back over calendars to remember meetings that you had, relationships that you established, places that you traveled. Again, maybe it was even Zooms that you had in your calendar, lunches, meals, coffees, etc. All that can spur memories of what you learned throughout the year. You may want to talk to other people about just how they've seen you grow. Again, all of this in an effort to capture some of the things that you've learned along the way this year. Make sure you find a quiet location without distractions, without a bunch of noise in the background, kids running around, banging on doors, whatever it might be. Find a quiet place where you can look back and reflect. And then probably most importantly, turn off the notifications. I'm continuing to just understand this as one of the significant issues in our society today. For most of us to actually reflect and to look back, we need distraction-free areas and environments. And most of us can't create a distraction-free environment unless we're turning off notifications, the dings and pings of a phone. So get focused. Turn on Do Not Disturb. Turn off notifications, whatever those might be. Close your email so you don't see things stacking up or piling up in an inbox. And I just want to encourage you to take some quiet. Maybe you want to grab your favorite drink. It's a hot coffee, it's a tea, whatever, to just sit and enjoy. Maybe it's by a fireplace, somewhere warm. But I just want to encourage you to create the right environment in order to do this. And as I was thinking about creating just a few thoughts for you today, I tend to go through a series of questions. for myself. I thought I would share those with you. There are 10 categories of these questions. And again, this isn't so much informational as much as just a guide for the end of this year. My hope is that as a result of this show, you would be able to take a few moments out of your day or out of your year and look back at the last year in order to lock in learning. There are many concepts in learning and how to remember things. One of them is to continue to go back over things. And so allow this to be a moment where you go back over some of the things that you learned this year to, again, remember through various senses what you experienced in order to carry those with you into next year. So 10 categories of questions that you should be asking yourself. You decide how deep you want to go with any one of these. The first category is your accomplishments. As you look back over the last year at your accomplishments, what did you accomplish this year? Those could be personally, those could be professional accomplishments. But what did you accomplish this year? And what goals did you achieve? Did you set some goals for yourself? Look back at even the small things, the things that you wanted to do, the changes that you wanted to make. Maybe it was health related, again, personal, or it could have been professional. I just want to be more on time. I would like to build a few new relationships, but what goals did you achieve? And then third question, what challenges did you overcome? What challenges did you overcome? I think a lot of times we don't take the time to look back at the challenges, maybe even small challenges that we overcame throughout a year. They could have been minor places of anxiety that you overcame. It could have been maybe a financial difficulty that you overcame, but what challenges did you overcome? What challenges did you overcome? Okay, so the first category is just looking back over accomplishments. Second category, failures, looking back at failures. I think if you talk to any leader, they will tell you that they learned more through a failure than they've ever learned through a success. But most of the time, many of us are really fearful of failure. And so when you're fearful of failure and you fail, you want to move past it as quickly as possible onto the next success. However, when you take the time to look back at your failures, you can really learn going forward. So a few questions around failures. What didn't go as planned this year? I mean, coming out of the pandemic and coming out of maybe lockdowns and moving more into remote work or hybrid work, or maybe it was even returning to the office. What didn't go as planned this year? And I think sometimes taking just the opportunity to look back at what didn't go as planned can help us realize and learn that, hey, you know what? When things don't go as planned, I still get through it. I know that this year, for me personally, there were some moments where things didn't go as planned. And when you look back and you reflect and you take the time to think about, well, what was the result of that? You can really learn a lot going forward. Next question, what mistakes did you make? I mean, do you have the humility to even look back over the last year to realize, you know what, there were some mistakes that I made. And when we can lock those in and learn from them, many of us won't make that same mistake again. And so what mistakes did you make? What did you learn from those mistakes? What did you learn from those mistakes? And I think a lot of times we can go back and we can think, okay, here was the mistake that I made. I learned from that mistake. I don't want to make that mistake again, but here's what I learned about myself. Here's what I learned about other people. Here's what I learned about preparation. Here's what I learned even after the fact about failure. So 2 categories, accomplishments, failures. Here's your third category of looking back, gratitude. Gratitude. What are you grateful for this year? What are those things that you are incredibly thankful for this year? People, places, roles, responsibilities, leadership opportunities, growth. What are you grateful for this year. We've talked about it on this show before, but gratitude is an amazingly strong emotion. And regardless of what you're going through or the difficulties that you're experiencing, maybe 2022 or maybe this year was really difficult for you, but gratitude has an amazing way of moving your mind into a place where you're not so focused on all the things that went wrong, but it can actually change your emotional state to a more positive place by just simply focusing on the things that you're grateful for. Here's a second question around gratitude. Who are the people in your life who have made a positive impact? So as you look back over the last year, who are the individuals that you've surrounded yourself with that have made a positive impact in your life? I think it's really important to realize that the most important thing in our lives are the people around us, the relationships. I think far too often we are consumed with striving for things that don't really matter. And as we reflect over the last year, it's oftentimes it's the people that we've surrounded ourselves with that have really made a positive impact on us. I would add to that, okay, so they made a positive impact. What was it that they said? What was it that they did? What was it that they said to you in a moment? What was their timing? Why was their timing so significant in your life? But who are the people in your life that have made a positive impact? Okay, that's the third category, gratitude. Here's the fourth, relationships. Relationships or people. How have your relationships with others evolved this year? How have your relationships with others evolved this year? Now, again, I think one of the things that my wife and I talk about is that relationships change. They evolve. They move. And it's okay. And so sometimes relationships change as roles change, jobs change, locations change. And that is okay. It's a natural part of growth and learning. But how have your relationships with others evolved this year? Maybe it's with friends and you think, gosh, how have I evolved in this relationship? How have I learned how to engage more deeply in this relationship? Whatever it might be, taking the time to think about how each of your relationships have evolved, work, personal, kids, friends, spouses, siblings, what's happened this year. And then secondly, are there any relationships that need more attention or support? So think about the relationships that maybe in some ways got neglected this year. Are there any relationships that need more attention or support? Or maybe take a moment to think about relationships that you want to establish, that you want to go deeper in because you believe that next year that relationship could really help you more deeply. Fifth category, personal growth. Personal growth. How have you grown as a person this year? How have you grown as a person this year? So I think back to books you've read, podcasts that you've listened to, messages that you've heard, notes that you've received, emails that you've received, things and conversations that you've had with other people that have left an impression on you. How have you grown as a person this year? Have you learned anything new? Have you learned to do anything? Have you watched YouTube and gotten really good at something? Have you expanded your thoughts around certain topics? What are you talking about in conversations? How have you grown as a person this year? Maybe you've grown in your own leadership. Maybe you've grown in your ability to manage people, set clear expectations, influence people, navigate for people. How have you grown as a person this year? Secondly, what new skills or knowledge have you acquired? We kind of talked about it already, but are there any skills that you've acquired this year? Anything that you've learned to do that's made you more effective, either personally or creatively or innovatively, or even in your own career progress or progression? Are there any skills that you've learned that give you now a whole new potential in your life? And then the third question, how have you applied them in your life? So how have you applied these growths, these learnings, these skills, and this knowledge to your life? Now, again, the whole point of taking a few moments to reflect back on the last year is so that we can lock in these learnings so that they actually become a part of application. To just learn things for the sake of having more knowledge doesn't actually help anyone. And so the entire encouragement here is that you would take these learnings that you've had over the last year and that you would apply them personally to your life. That's the personal growth. The sixth category is health. Health. How has your physical and mental health been this year? I mean, physically, as you look back over the last year, a lot of people end of year start making plans for their physical health in the following year, only to find out that about 10, 11, 12, 13 days into the year, all of those plans have been ruined already. And so we want to make sure that we're setting proper expectations and good goals around our physical health. But what are some really practical things that you can do as you look back over this last year? Were there any promises that you made that you weren't quite able to fulfill? Is there anything that you need to do just to create some new routines or some new habits in your life this year around your physical health? Then the mental health category is huge. You've seen here on this show that we've done a number of episodes around mental health. It's a significant issue today. There are a lot of people dealing with stress and anxiety and mental health in general. As you look back over this year, how was your mental health? What did you do to change that? If you need some help in having some really practical steps in dealing with stress and anxiety, go back and watch some of our previous episodes on how to manage stress in our lives. It's such an important issue, particularly in the workplace today, but how we individually manage our stress will make you more effective both at work and at home. What steps can you take to improve your health and well-being in the coming year? Maybe just take a few moments to write down some of the ways that you want to improve health and well-being next year. Again, just a chance to sit and reflect and think through, hey, here are some changes that I want to make in my life going forward. All right, the seventh category of questions is around career. How has your career progressed this year? As you look back over the last year and you think about your career, we came out of the pandemic. It was referred to as the Great Resignation. Gallup has continued to study this concept of engagement versus disengagement versus active disengagement. We then heard this term quiet quit this year. But now, as people are looking back over the last few years, and we've been saying all along, this is really nothing new. Even back to the early 1900s, when people were studying employee satisfaction, they were looking at things like engagement, maybe not using the same words, but we've been watching these things for a long time. And so now people are talking about career cushioning. It's the newest term out there. Again, we can call it whatever we want. The point is, career cushioning has to do with the fact that now there's a trend where people are staying put in their current jobs. Could be based on economy, job market, recession, or recessionary pressures, whatever the case may be. It appears as though people might be staying put in their jobs right now for a season. So this whole concept of career cushioning is, how can I learn as much as I can where I am right now in order to make me more effective or more attractive for whatever's next? And I would say, why is that anything new? I mean, shouldn't that be everybody's goal in every role they've ever had? I mean, all of us should be trying to get better at what we're doing in order to be more effective and attractive for what's next. That is the goal in growth. And so this whole concept of career cushioning is really nothing new either. But as you reflect back over the last year, how has your career progressed this year? What have you done to pick up new skills, new knowledge, maybe new techniques to make you more effective for what's next. What are your professional goals for this coming year? Maybe just jot out. They don't have to be fully thought through. They don't have to be in the SMART format for those of you that know that, but just some simple thoughts on your professional goals for next year and how can you work towards achieving them. I would just ask you to think through, okay, if these are my goals and I want to go after them, who are the people that can help me achieve these? What are the books that I need to get access to? What are the things that I need to do to accomplish this? What's the time that I need to prioritize in order to make this happen? How can I work towards achieving them? All right, that was category number 7 on career. Here's number 8, finances. As you reflect and look back over the last year to lock in learning, how have your finances been this year? Are you proud of where you are? Have they been under control? Have you spent less than you made? What steps can you take to improve your financial situation in the coming year? So what are the really simple things that you want to do next year to get your finances more under control? And again, it could be, hey, there's some things I need to cut out. Or, hey, there are some ways that I could actually make some more discretionary income next year. I don't know what that looks like, but what steps can you take to improve your financial situation? All right, the 9th category, personal values. This is a really important one. It has a lot to do with your own satisfaction within different environments, whether it be work or other situations. But how well have you lived in accordance with your personal values this year? Now, for those of you who have never actually thought through your personal values, maybe that's a first place to start. And you can actually go back and watch a previous show on the importance of values. But for those of you who have actually set some personal values, for me personally, it's transparency and authenticity. It's scrappy and it's excellence. And so as I look back over the last year, how well have I lived in accordance with those values? Have I remained scrappy in different situations? Have I done things with excellence? And I would just say in part of my reflection that when I get too busy, when there are too many things stacked back to back to back, the level of excellence at which I can serve clients, team, my spouse, my kids, and my friends actually diminishes. So what do I need to do in the next year to make sure that that level of excellence doesn't drop? Have I been authentic? Those would be the questions that you would ask. Secondly, are there any areas where I could make changes to better align my actions with my values? So this would be, all right, was I in alignment? Now, looking forward, are there any things that I need to change so that I can be more aligned with my personal values? And as you begin to reflect and lock in these learnings, hopefully they will change your actions and behaviors next year. And here's the final category, goals. What goals do you have for the coming year? Again, this would be a place to just simply write down any thoughts that you've had, dreams that you've had, goals that you've had personally or professionally. What goals do you have for the coming year? Secondly, how can you make a plan to achieve them? What's your plan to actually achieve them? It's one thing to just write them down and to wish for it, but what are you going to practically do to begin to move towards the achievement of that goal? What are the simple steps that you can take? The steps that you can do even starting next week or tomorrow versus this is a step that I have to wait 3 months for because of these 5 things that need to happen perfectly in order to happen. That's not a great way of achieving our goals. And then the final question, what resources do you need to make those goals a reality? Are there any resources you need? Any ways that you need to be resourced? And that doesn't just mean financially, in order for those goals to become a reality. All right, those are 10 categories, giving you plenty of questions to process through. Maybe you needed to pause this, then you can restart it. Maybe you need to rewind and go back through them. But here are the 10 categories of questions that I should be asking myself when looking back to lock in learning. First category is accomplishments. Second, failures. Third, gratitude. Fourth, relationships. Fifth, personal growth. Health is sixth. Seventh is career. Eighth is finances. 9 is personal values. And 10 are my goals. Now, in true authenticity, because that is a personal value of mine, I will be taking time to go through all 10 of these categories this week. And so I want to encourage you, come along the journey with me and see if we can look back to lock in learning for next year. Again, for those of you who join us regularly on the Always About People show, I am so thankful that you've joined us along this journey. We've even learned some things about how to make this show more effective for people, how to make it more attractive, how to cover topics that people are really dealing with. And so once again, what we try to do here is on a regular basis in every episode, cover practical issues that we're hearing across the country as we work with leaders and in workplaces on what people are dealing with, how we can make leaders and managers more effective in understanding people. And so every topic that you'll hear and learn about on this show will hopefully make you a better person, a better leader, a more competent leader of people. And that doesn't matter what age those people are. They could be kids, they could be colleagues in the workplace, but we hope that you continue to find the topics here on this show helpful, relevant, and practical for you. Again, whether you're watching this live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, we're just thankful that you've joined us here again. And that's a wrap on another year. We'll see you next time on our next episode of the Always About People show.